Welcome. My name is Andreka Kokliat, and you are here for the Jerk Whisperer. This is regarding post-traumatic growth, and what I'm presenting are the easiest actions that produce valuable results and fast. So, my name is Andreka Kokliat. I'm a house healing place coach and lifestyle design ally. And you can find me at WiseStamp under my post-traumatic growth and in Facebook at my post-traumatic growth. So this information here is for entertainment and education. And if there's illness or anything going on, just seek care from a trusted health professional. So, just a little housekeeping here. Do you have equipment, such as a pen for taking notes? There's going to be a quiz afterwards. So, be prepared with a piece of paper, maybe your journal. Get something to drink, a little snack. Run to the bathroom, and please know if there's a technical glitch, just be patient with me. In the future, I'm going to be doing Zoom or some type of live chat. So there's going to be a chat box. Also, just I ask pardon in advance for any technical problems, ambient noise, PC notification pop-ups that may occur. So who am I? So some of the testimonials from workshops I facilitated is that I gave one of the best classes. Somebody wrote, "You made a big difference, inspiring, excellent instructor, outstanding, and supportive." And so I'm a content curator of my post-traumatic growth, and I was one of the first 200 people who attended and completed Chris Kresser's beta testing for his ADAPT class. And also I host the functional forum here in Missoula by the Evolution of Medicine. Recently I got my fermentationist certification with Summerbach. I also have training through Psychic Horizons, Heartwood. I have a certification from the New York Center for Iridology. I have a feng shui certification and other experience. So the purpose of this talk is some brainstorming to be solution-oriented, realistic, to provide easy, fast results, and ultimately for those who are dealing with post-traumatic growth, to replace people-pleasing with representing your interests. So Peter Levine, an expert in trauma, a quote from him is that trauma is commonplace. So I want to do some brainstorming right now. So what's a good word for somebody who targets people who have less power? And so what's an example of that? So what's a name that comes up for you for those who do personal insults, who invade people's personal space, their physical territory, who make uninvited personal or physical contact, who do threats, intimidation, whether it's verbal or nonverbal, make sarcastic passive aggressive insults, do status slaps intended to humiliate, people who do public shaming rituals, do rude interruptions, two-faced attacks, dirty looks, treating people as they were invisible. So what word comes up to describe somebody like that, doing that behavior? And in case that wasn't enough, what do you think of people, like what's a word that comes up with the following, which I consider to be toxic forms of negligence or abuse: being glib, minimizing a concern, denying the seriousness of your concerns, becoming angry or irritable when reference is made to the situation, bamboozling, which is preventing or obfuscating access to information or resources, pressuring you to act against your own interests, putting you down, manipulation. And this is control of others, manipulation meaning control of others by niceness, charm, or compensatory entitlement. What is compensatory entitlement? Sorry about that. It's when somebody is being manipulative, and they're like, well, I have this worse situation than you, so I'm entitled to more of whatever, more resource, more time, more money, more of your goodwill than you deserve of my goodwill. So hopefully that makes sense. So what kind of word comes to mind when you think of people who do that? that whole description of behaviors. And the reason why I'm asking you, I'm calling this presentation the Jerk Whisperer. However, in a public forum, I would have a little bit more of a defined word. And the reason why I am going into this linguistic language component is because when there's post-traumatic growth, there's an impairment of language and memory. And when you can't name something, you can't know it. You can't, there's no, if you don't have words for the memory, you don't have the memory. And so when you can't name it and you can't know it, you can't heal it. So the goal for post-traumatic growth is to heal, and therefore we have to name the unnamed, name what's been neglected, name what's been silenced. And so I'm using jerk in this presentation. However, Robert Sutton, an engineer professor at Stanford, he wrote a book that inspired me greatly. Also, shame expert referred to these kind of people and experiences. So I bring my own personal experience, which is why I'm using the word jerk, because there are some people that seem to qualify in my personal experience, and it's a primal feeling that we all have that's undeniable and affects us. And speaking of affect, do you feel, or have you felt like you've aged 20 years before your time? Do you have a lot of anxiety, depression, pain? Do you feel mentally overwhelmed, clumsy, make kind of silly mistakes, afraid to express your basic needs, feel trapped, overwhelmed, have a lot of self-doubt, lack of confidence? And on a physiological level, do you find yourself clenching your jaw, sighing a lot, digestive complaints, problems with bathroom issues, infections, a lot of muscle tension? Are you withdrawing, reclusive, don't care about how you look, bad sleep? So those are indications of strain. And just because everybody's going through it means that there's a problem that's epidemic. All those symptoms are not normal. They are abnormal. I'd like to quote John Leach here: "Denial and inactivity prepare people well for the roles of victim and corpse." So I just really want to just slow down here a second. Denial and inactivity prepare people well for the roles of victim and corpse. And the reason why I bring this up is that people with untreated PTSD, they harm themselves, others. There's a 45% mortality rate. And if we look at statistics nationwide, Montana is in the top 3, as is Missoula is in the top 3 for sudden death. So untreated PTSD also has to do with, it affects one's economic life, and it also affects the person's family economic life and well-being, the emotional well-being of the family. Also, post-traumatic growth is possible, suffering is an option, and it is our birthright to heal, especially since there's healing modalities. So for people who have trauma and are on the path to post-traumatic growth, what are your possible goals? Maybe you want to feel safer, more confident, laugh more, have less pain, think more clearly, reduce the needs for chemicals to have energy or sleep, to have energy for movement practice, to wake rested, stop using food for comfort, and just have better relationships, better biology. And I also want to do a brief comparison of like worldwide health. So if we look at the United States, our attainment of our health goals, here we are at 24 in terms of our attainment of health goals. So Finland is at 20, France is at 3, Uganda's at 186. The United Kingdom, England is at 14, Switzerland is at 8, Venezuela 52, Vietnam 116, Yemen is 141. So like the attainment of health goals, France is 3, UK is 14, United States is 24. And then in terms of health expenditure, how much money we spend on health, US is number 1. So Switzerland is at 8 in terms of meeting its goals, it's at number 2. France is at 3 in meeting its goals, and it's at number 4. So we spend the most, but we have a pretty low score for how much we spend on health. And and what I also want to say is that other countries are doing better. Other countries who spend less are able to meet their health goals. And their health goals are of a higher caliber than what we're striving for. That is my contention. And if we look at the World Health Organization, health is more than just the absence of disease. It also has a mental and social component, which I am concerned that we have forgotten or think doesn't belong. And so what are basic human needs? So, think about it, like food, clothing, shelter, meaning in life. But ultimately, if we look at survival media, positive attitude is the most important thing. It's what we need even before sustenance. So positive attitude is my theory that it is not, a positive attitude is not just from within. Like we get our positive attitude from the people around our environment. And what I also suggest is that we get a positive attitude when we're in a healthy system, a healthy family system, a healthy community system, a healthy helping system, whatever that may be. And what are the features of a healthy system? A functional organization or a functional family, open communication, expression of feelings, where there's explicit rules. And what I mean by explicit rules is people tell you, this is what we expect. We expect you to be honest. We expect you to show up. We expect you to clean up after yourself, put things back where you find it. So where there's explicit rules. And then where there's also respect for individuation, freedom, and where there's constant value systems. So constant value systems could look like there's accountability. Like, let's say you don't put the milk back in the fridge. So somebody says, hey, put the milk back in the fridge. And so accountability could be a value system. Transparency. If let's say the person lies and says, I didn't leave the milk out, but everybody is transparent and says, yeah, I leave the milk out too. So when there's a constant value system, I really like accountability and transparency. However, other values work in functional organizations or families. But anyways, you need constant value systems, explicit rules, also freedom for individuality, open-mindedness, where you create new traditions. So let's say, you have a whole new group of people join your organization. So you have, holiday parties or new birthday parties or whatever. Where there's other features of a healthy system are a pleasant atmosphere, where there's healthy people, and these are healthy people who are physiologically healthy as well as mentally healthy, and trust, where trust and love is flourishing. So I like the standing on the shoulders of giants, and so Martin Seligman, he's the kind of the father of the positive psychology movement in academia, as I understand it. And he also came up with a definition of learned helplessness. And an example of learned helplessness is, whatever I do will fail, so why try again? So whatever I do will fail, so why try again? And so that's what learned helplessness is, kind of sums it up, the question. And why would anybody ask such a question? So what is trauma, betrayal, trauma? So traumatic events, by definition, overwhelm our ability to cope. And then trauma, betrayal, trauma is when a victim is traumatized by a public agent of the public good. It's a trustworthy agent of the public good. So it could be somebody is in a first-hand traumatic situation, but the people who are supposed to help them re-traumatize them or add extra trauma to their situation. And I consider this an attachment injury because we know a public agent of the public good. I mean, a trusted agent of the public good. We have an attachment to, our parents or spouses or institutions, police, whatever. And so when we have experienced trauma by these trusted agents of the public good, it can seem like a rejection and a rejection of our humanity. And regardless, I'd like to quote James Maskell of the Functional Forum in his talk about isolation. Rejection affects us 20 times more than the death of a loved one. So how many times have you been rejected in serious situations? So I would like to describe the spectrum of what rejection looks like, and it's a spectrum. So it's like, the worst part of rejection, and to where there's kind of the beginning of being heard, and to where there's like full functional listening. So the worst of rejection is evasion, being ignored. So that's the worst, is when you're ignored. Even like somebody yelling at you is more healthy than being completely ignored, because when you're completely ignored, you're of no consequence and you've lost your humanity. So being evaded, being ignored is the worst. Interruption, when the topic is, where you experience disapproval of the topic. So that's getting a little bit better. When somebody contradicts you, you say, I hate the rain, and the person's like, no, you don't. So that's contradiction. Perfunctory recognition, autopilot. So when somebody's like, yeah, so what? Implicit recognition and changing the topic. So that's still kind of dysfunctional, but it's getting closer to the beginning of the light, so to speak. And then we start getting into the realm of listening when there's acknowledgement of what you're bringing up with room for further communication exchange. So the person's like, oh, really? You don't like it when it rains? And then leaving space for you to fill in the blanks. So pursuing the topic. There we go. That's the ball is rolling. Things are good. Confirmation. You don't like it when it rains? I hear ya. When it rains, it's rough. Fully shared experience. Yeah, when it rained, the car's like hydroplaned. It scared me. And then the taking listening to the best is where there's consistent behavior upon future follow-up. So it's not like you just been heard that one time. It's where you can trust being heard consistently and in an ongoing way. And so who are the people who are less likely to be heard? Is it the bosses that don't get heard? No, of course. Who is it that doesn't get heard? It's the people who don't have status. So people who lack status, they have less economic freedom. What happens when you have less economic freedom? What happens when you have less options? You're more stressed. So what happens when you're under chronic stress and you don't have the means to cope with the stress or cope with the situation? What happens? Like chronic illness, and that's maybe a factor in. It's proven. It's a proven factor. Chronic stress lends to serious chronic disease. So I want to backtrack a little bit and go back to listening. So we were talking about the spectrum going from antagonism to support, and so listening. What does listening look like? So when a boss is talking to a subordinate, and the boss is telling somebody what to do, how does the subordinate look? If that person wants to, has an incentive to stay with the company and work with the boss. What do they look like to the boss when the boss is saying, hey, I want you to do this and this? So the subordinate or the person who's invested in hearing, and they display that they're listening. So they make eye contact, they repeat the accurate messages that's been shared, they indicate that they understand the meaning and sentiment of the boss or whoever, and they indicate that they remember, they demonstrate that they remember, that they're interpreting properly, and they respond to the requests. And that's what I'm recommending, that people who are improving their situation, that's what they need to look for. They need to look for somebody who listens and mirrors and is reliable about understanding what they're asking, remembering what they're asking, giving feedback about what they're asking, and also responding reasonably to the traumatized person's simple requests. And I don't want to call us traumatized people, like we're not defined by the trauma. We are on our post-traumatic growth path. So post-traumatic growth, what does that look like? So when somebody's gone from trauma to post-traumatic growth, what does it look like when somebody's gone through PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, to post-traumatic growth? So what post-traumatic growth looks like is recalling the trauma with healthy detachment without being overwhelmed or dissociated from the memories, where they're able to assign meaning to the trauma, and where they have the capacity for trust and attachment and empathy again. Also, it involves the sense of being damaged with replacing it with a sense of being valuable and valued, and establishing a belief in one's own strength after the fact, and where self-blame has been replaced with self-acceptance and self-worth, and where obsessive rumination about the past has been replaced by realistic evaluation, where you're comfortable with your range of feelings and you're committed to your future and taking responsibility for your life. So why bother healing post-traumatic stress disorder? Because even though it may seem like an impossible task or hard, or you don't have time for it, or that person doesn't matter, victims might hurt themselves or others, and those with post-traumatic stress disorder that's untreated can develop chronic diseases, which is an economic hardship on them, their family, and the community. And post-traumatic growth is possible. Suffering is only an option. It's not inevitable, and we really ought to embrace the opportunity to recover from trauma. So, isn't post-traumatic stress disorder like a weakness? Isn't it? Aren't people just like being a big baby, and shouldn't they get over it by now? Isn't it all in their head? Well, studies show that childhood trauma can make people more susceptible to PTSD. So on some levels, technically, the post-traumatic stress disorder may be in somebody's head, and that may be due to an overactive amygdala rather than a moral failing or a character flaw, that the person's not trying hard enough to get over it. So shame triggers are located in the basal ganglia, and post-traumatic stress disorder can affect our subjective sense of self. So just because a psychiatrist or people's friends or family feel good about themselves, or the person with post-traumatic stress disorder, the person with post-traumatic stress disorder has an altered sense of themselves, and it's their experience. So the chronic reduced economic circumstances that occur with post-traumatic stress disorder, it also reduces access of that person. It reduces their access to healthy food, to healthy recreational activities, to access to healthy community, and it also reduces their access to trusted quality health and psychological care. So my goal here is to encourage people to what I'm calling a parasympathetic lifestyle. So why would I suggest a parasympathetic lifestyle? And we'll get into what parasympathetic means. But would you say that there's a lot of stress and strain in everyday life, that a lot of people are struggling with depression, anxiety, PTSD? They're also struggling with a lot of health issues. Like, aren't a lot of people, even though people are taking their medications and going to the doctor, is there a lot in your personal experience of illness and struggling emotionally? Are people struggling? Is there an epidemic of autoimmune diseases? And in my opinion, in my experience, it seems that we're being encouraged to accept disease as the norm. And I'm wondering if disease is being considered somewhat of a rite of passage. And again, I just want to say that suffering can be alleviated, growth can occur, and the body and mind are meant to heal. So what is the parasympathetic system? It's one of the two parts of the autonomic nervous system, and it is the complement to the stress system, the sympathetic system. So there's parasympathetic and sympathetic, and so sympathetic is stress, parasympathetic is our peaceful rest and digest system. And what I'm striving for is encouraging people to strive for activating our parasympathetic and toning down the sympathetic. So what are the ways to activate the parasympathetic system? And these are cheap, free, easy, and you don't have to go anywhere or have any hardware unless you want to. So smiling activates your parasympathetic system. So so you can just smile. It's probably even better if you're thinking about something kind of fun, or engaging with a loved one, or just a nice person. And there's also, if you want to make a bit of a drill, you can take like a pen or a chopstick and put it in your mouth. And the mechanism of a smile, it activates your parasympathetic system. Also, posture helps your parasympathetic system. So our current iPhone and like laptop use is really hard on our vagus nerve and our parasympathetic wiring, because we were meant to be upright. And so like the hunching over, it just kinks up our vagus nerve. So if you can imagine, you have like a silver cord going up from the top of your head. That's just trying to have good posture. Also, sitting is the new smoking. So if you have a sedentary job or lifestyle, it's important to get up at least every hour, maybe wash a dish or run to the bathroom or take your dog for a walk. Also, breathing. Now, I want to kind of clarify what I consider to be a bit of an error. A lot of breathing guidance is, they say, take a deep, deep, deep breath. But when in your life are you taking such a huge, huge, huge deep breath? It's usually when there's some sort of crisis going on. So what I understand is it's important to take like up to 75% of your breath, and not, you don't have to like do a max effort of breathing, and that will help your parasympathetic system. Also, hydrating with filtered water and getting fresh air, opening up your window, cleaning out air conditioning filters, and taking basic care of your body. And on an emotional, mental side, it's important to expect positive results. So and it's important to anticipate. Anticipation is kind of a deep, primal, rewarding thing. That's why we're hunter-gatherers. We liked to pick berries. We like to find, that's why we like to go to the store. And we go because we anticipate something positive, some kind of unexpected surprise. So expect positive results, and try to build a little bit on that, and keep starting. So let's say you're like, okay, I'm gonna smile, and then as part of your parasympathetic activity, and then let's say you stop doing it after a few days. Just keep starting. Like, rather than feeling like you've fallen off the wagon, just keep starting. Just always keep starting. Whatever health practice you're doing, just keep starting and see which ones will stick. And another one that's highly recommended is a gratitude list, making new friends. And I also recommend praying, even if only it's to pray for clarity or strength to pray. And find supportive, positive people. Replace negative self-talk with endorsing. So what is endorsing? Endorsement. Endorsing is giving yourself credit for what you've done. So one of the things that our culture, I guess we're so afraid of being narcissistic, or that only certain people are supposed to be fabulous, and so a lot of people don't give themselves credit for what they do. So it's really critical to acknowledge what successes, what you've accomplished. And clutter is also a factor in obstacles in your life. So whatever that you can manage to clear away, like your counters, papers, junk mail, replace clutter with a clean, available space, so that you have surfaces with which to make your food, or write your journal, or just live your life. And replace energy depleting, low-value, time-consuming activities with shortcuts. So one of the things I like to do, I don't have a lot of counter space, so instead of having a dish rack to dry, occupying my prime kitchen real estate, I just if it's not going to be too gross or whatever, I just put the dishes back in my cabinet. So I save myself kind of two, just a couple minutes. But what are low value, time-consuming activities? So my feng shui teacher, she recommends that we hurry up in our beauty regimen, and then but do a little bit more to fix your hair or whatever. So try to optimize it. I'd like to also introduce the game mentality. So gaming, a lot of people love video games or tabletop games, or family activities. And why do people like games? Why a lot of people spend a lot of time on games. They spend money on games, and more than they, and if you ask people, if you compare, an average worker, their enjoyment of a game or the workplace, if you ask, what do you like more, a game or work, they would probably say games. And why is that? Because games have a clear goal, and they have consistent rules, kind of getting back to what I was talking about healthy systems. They give you feedback about progress that you're making, and where there's voluntary participation, because free choice is fun. Consent is a requirement to healing and well-being. And a lot of times, people don't necessarily have great options regarding their economic situation, their job options. So I want to talk about dealing with dysfunctional systems. So if your physical safety, if there's not going to be retaliation when you're dealing with difficult systems, I'd recommend taking notes or recording conversations with dysfunctional, like people who are representing the dysfunctional system that you may be having some difficulty with. And so when you're dealing with somebody who is a difficult, maybe they're not understanding you or you're not understanding them, there are some good phrases that I'd like to recommend. So when somebody's like contradicting you or neglecting you or attacking you, you could possibly say, hey, I'm confused. It would help me if you can explain why you're doing this. And keep asking the other party again and again until you understand why such and such is going on. If things get bad from the start, you could be like, hey, it seems like we started off on the wrong foot. Can we start over? And when it's still kind of difficult, you can be like, here's the thing. Here's the thing about me. Here's the thing about the such and such. And let's say somebody has an agenda or just they're rigidly thinking about your issue. You could be like, I know you think such and such about whatever, and I need it this way. Or you could be like, hey, can we stop for a minute? And maybe if things are too stressful, you could just, take a breather, go for a little walk, run to the restroom, pray, meditate. And so let's say the situation's still difficult. You could tell the other party, hey, this isn't working for me when you yell at me or when whatever. Or you could turn around and be like, ask the other person who you're having difficulty with, hey, what do you need in order to give me what I'm asking for? What do you need? And also sometimes just people are on automatic pilot, and so you can just kind of make it really clear, be like, hey, I depend upon whatever, and you would really help me out if you could help me get that thing. Let's say somebody's in a rush and they're pressuring you. You could be like, hey, if you can you please wait half a minute and I can do the thing? Can you wait just a minute? And also just in terms of clear communication, you could be like, hey, I'd like to do such and such if that's okay with you. I'd like to meet you at 2 if that's okay with you. And when somebody has an agenda and they're kind of forcing it on you, you could be like, well, can you tell me more about this procedure? Can you tell me more about this prescription? Can you tell me more about this policy? And when you make a statement, you could be like, hey, does that seem reasonable to you? So I'd like to close with encouraging you to kind of think about this presentation and what is it that you want to bring to your life. So is your goal, would you like to stimulate your parasympathetic system and kind of help tone down your stress response? So would smiling be more of what you want to do, or go for a walk in fresh air more, or try out one of these phrases like, hey, can you give me a minute? Or, hey, can we take a little break from this conversation? So think about, grab that pen and paper and think about what it is that you want to make as your to-do list. And it's always available. You can always revise and update your goals. And so thank you so much for joining me. In the future, I'd like to have a live audience here and also have this live streamed on Zoom, so I would have a video chat as well. In the meantime, if you want to get a hold of me, you can find me on Facebook. I have a Facebook group, My Post-Traumatic Growth, and I also have a Facebook page, Post-Traumatic Growth, and I have a landing page. I'm having some website issues, so I would recommend, if you wanted to find me on Wise Stamp, it's also called Wise Intro, but Wise Stamp is a little easier to remember, but I'm under My Post-Traumatic Growth there as well. And you can find me, I'm here in Missoula, and with that, sending you all the best to all, and have a wonderful rest of your day. And keep your little list going for your practice. All right, bye bye.